Just a little bit more background, and I really do this for the purposes of a number of other consulting firms focus on one particular industry. A lot of what we do is really horizontal. It really goes across all industries, and so a lot of my examples and comments are going to be from a variety of different sources, from a manufacturing company to an insurance company to a bank. Another thing, too, that I've been doing for longer than I'd like to think sometimes is I'm an adjunct professor in software engineering at DePaul University. That provides me an opportunity to have to stay on top of things when students ask questions, and that's been a very enlightening and fun aspect of my career. Really, let's get into the meat of what we want to talk about today. I want to start with a little overview. We all know where we're at today. We're in throes of a major economic crisis, but I think the key is we're also part of a global economy, and today we have competition coming from anywhere, and the whole thrust of this webinar is in order to stay vital and be a competitor for today and tomorrow, and really to survive this is one major element that companies need to do that many U.S. companies have not done, is focus on process maturity and process improvement. Now, when I say process level 5, I don't mean exactly CMM process level 5, and we'll get to that in a moment. So this transcends the CMMI. It goes across any kind of process framework, and we'll talk more at the end about what we mean by process level 5. Companies, and this is an example that's from CMM because they've done the most studies in terms of the benefits. By getting to a higher level of process maturity, there are a number of amazing benefits that occur. One, there's a huge return on investment, the equivalent of getting 700 to 800% return on the stock market versus minus 25 or 30% that we've seen these last 6 months or so. There's a tremendous gain in productivity, and that's not a one-time gain, but typically year over year as I continuously improve. There's reductions in time to market, defects. More importantly, both employees and customers are more happier and feel that the organization is doing a better job of delivering software for them. Now, there's no free lunch. There's a cost to this, and that cost will range from 2 to 8%. A lot of that money is already being spent in the organization, and oftentimes many continuous process improvement activities that are disjointed and don't function together. We won't talk as much about that today, but I've talked about that in prior webinars. The goal of all this is to become a global competitor. Now, our world today, we know the economy is not doing very well. But in addition to that, there are a number of other things going on that we have to be aware of. We live in a global economy. No company is safe. Just some examples. In financial software, in the 60s through the 90s, that was predominantly dominated by U.S. companies, Dun & Bradstreet being one of the leaders, but certainly not the only one. Today, the leader in that area is SAP, potentially followed by Oracle. So we've shifted from the U.S. Dominating it to now a German domination with maybe a secondary domination or a secondary player in the terms of Oracle. Automobiles in the 60s and 80s, GM was it, whether you had a Chevy or a Pontiac, which is going away. Today now the new companies are Toyota and being replaced in many cases by an upstart called Hyundai, which has done a tremendous job of focusing on quality and really was the only automobile manufacturer actually to gain market share in Q4 of last year. Televisions, we had RCA, GE, a whole host of other companies. Now it's Sony being pushed very much by Samsung. Again, no one is safe. Cell phones, the same thing. Motorola was very big in it now. It's Nokia, Samsung, and a whole host of other folks. Computer software, it was IBM. Now it's Microsoft, followed by really being pushed very hard by Google and Apple and a lot of Indian outsourcers that are providing good value for the dollar. In computer hardware is IBM and Digital. Now it's a whole host of other companies. Digital was no around. In retail, Sears to Walmart. This is constantly happening. Competition can come from anywhere. I don't believe any industry is safe. If you think you work for a state government or even the federal government, when really push comes to shove and finances start getting crossed with delivery of services, I think any industry, from an insurance to health insurance, could be provided by literally any company in the world. Now, let's take a look at some of our competitors, and I think this is really key. Most U.S. organizations, many of them don't even know what CMMI is. If I'm in a seminar and I ask about it, every Indian outsourcing company and almost every outsourcing company around the world that's taking market share from the U.S. has CMMI Level 5. But in addition, they haven't stopped there. In many cases, they're also ISO certified, ticket, the People CMM, ITIL, and the list goes on and on and on. This is the environment we live in, and I think that's a real key, that one of the things we need to do is figure out how to constantly get better at what we do in software development, be it a software development organization building custom software for clients or an internal IT organization. Now, organizations must constantly improve. We must constantly be reducing costs. Why? Because everyone else in the world is doing it. We must reduce cycle time. We must constantly add the latest features and capabilities to our products. We must improve quality. And not only that, we must innovate and create new products and services. This is really key for us to stay in the game. Now, that's sort of the background of where we're at. Now I really want to focus and switch gears to focus on where we are in terms of process and practices, some definitions that I want to use going forward that'll help set the stage for where we really want to take this in terms of when I talk about process level 5. I want to talk about practices, processes, and improvement. A practice. What is a practice? We hear that all the time. Best practice this, best practice that, good practice this. A practice is very simply a consistent and repeatable way of working. Practices can include literally anything, as long as we do it repeatedly. An activity, a process that we follow, a technique that we follow, standards, a guideline. It could be logging time into a time reporting system every week. It could be entering defects into a defect tracking system, a weekly status report, documenting a requirement in a consistent way. As long as we do it in a consistent way, it's a practice. And we continually, you hear this time and time again. In sports, they're practicing. He's hitting his golf swing. He's taking batting practice. They're doing practice laps in auto racing. A practice is something that we do repeatedly till we get very, very, very good at it. And literally, we don't have to think about how to do it. Now, practices can be formed into, and we'll see this, into processes. Before we go to process, though, I want to say, what's the best practice? And I think this is really key. And I want to take it outside the area of software development and make you think about best practices in its broadest possible way. One is a best practice is a practice that is proven to be effective and efficient across many different organizations or individuals across time. It's something we can take and reuse and find that it's providing more value. Now, depending on which organization is using and which individual, there's still going to be gradations of how well that practice is being performed. Let's say an example from the 72 Olympics. And the old way of doing a high jump was to go over the high jump forwards. I roll over it as I'm doing